Tom Cameron Swayze.
Ed Huntley. David Brady. John Chancellor.
No deal. Hundreds of private homes offered to Katrina evacuees. So why did FEMA say no until today? An NBC News investigation tonight. On the move, millions of Americans hit the road for the holidays, and this year many are finding something they never expected. Our series, Pension Tension, why you might want to start paying extra attention to your IRA and 401k. And home away from home. Remember this young man?
What they gonna do? What we gonna do?
We met him during the darkest days of Katrina. So how's he doing now?
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening, and on this night before Thanksgiving, we know that traditionally many of you tune in to us to check on the progress of loved ones who may be caught in the transportation snarl that always seems to happen at this time on this very night every year. The truth is, however, it is not all that bad out there this year. While the skies may look crowded, judging by this real-time online flight tracking system where every one of those green dots represents a jet in the sky, the reality isn't all that bad. We'll have a complete report in just a moment. Tonight, we're going to begin, however, with those Americans who lost so much this year, most of them in Hurricane Katrina. Like the troops overseas, they will be in the thoughts of a lot of Americans this Thanksgiving. Some are still without permanent shelter, and tonight we have learned some had a chance to live in a good home, but they never knew it because the government said no. We begin here tonight with NBC News senior investigative correspondent Lisa Myers.
This handsome Atlanta home has all the modern perks. 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, spacious finished basement, nice view, even 2 fireplaces.
It's ready to move in.
The 3 is NBC News, Washington.
And now about those families in the storm zone, and a very fundamental question as we are now just hours away from Thanksgiving officially. What do you give thanks for if you've just lost everything in a storm? As NBC's Martin Savage reports from our New Orleans bureau tonight, the answer may surprise a lot of people.
Last year, the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office served 1,500 New Orleans.
Now to that travel reality we mentioned today. For thousands of Americans, millions of them, they've been on the move, going home or going to someone else's home for the Thanksgiving holiday. According to the AAA, more than 37 million Americans are taking a trip of at least 50 miles over this Thanksgiving holiday. So how is all that travel going? For more on that, we want to go to one of the nation's busiest spots today, Chicago O'Hare Airport. That's where NBC's Kevin Tibbles is standing by. Kevin, good evening.
Hi, Brian. You know, the Thanksgiving holiday weekend exodus is in full swing here at O'Hare, other airports, roadways, even railways across the nation. The big news, aside from a little winter weather out there, things are going smoothly. The first taste of winter in Chicago this morning as snow slowed the estimated 2 million travelers planning to use this city's 2 airports this weekend.
We know that it's not under our control, so it's a lot better for us to just roll the punches.
But by and large, a headache-free travel day, thanks to innovations like self-serve kiosks.
Every year the technology
is going to be a very slippery one.
In the Midwest, a cold blast and snow means a treacherous trip tonight for many drivers, of many rediscovering travel by train or by bus. But it's the airlines that are clearly the happiest.
It is a very full flight today.
Travelers no longer influenced by 9/11 are filling up flights in record numbers, even though prices are up about $40 over last year.
If trends continue, when the airlines look back at Thanksgiving in 2005, this could be the weekend the pendulum started coming back.
Now, Brian, all attentions turn to Sunday. While many people left early to beat the rush, everyone wants to get home on that day, so all the flights are pretty much sold out. And if you miss your flight, it may take days before you get back to work.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin Tibbles on this night before Thanksgiving. Ever since 9/11, holiday rush or not, traveling by air in this country has become downright burdensome for some. And as NBC's Tom Costello reports, the federal workers who are in charge of security are under growing pressure to find new ways to outsmart the terrorists.
Come on, put it up there.
It happens 2 million times each day. Transportation Security Administration.
What grade would you give the TSA today, 4 years after 9/11?
I'd say about a B+. What's working? Better Community continues to confiscate thousands of pair of scissors and knives and lighters every single day. And also very real-looking toy guns and real firearms, 3,000 since 9/11. Critics charge the TSA is far too focused on scissors and not focused enough on cargo. 6 billion pounds of it carried on passenger jets last year alone. A GAO investigation found only a small Washington.
And by the way, we can report tonight the traffic is moving once again on one of the busiest stretches of I-95 just north of the nation's capital. This is what it looked like for several hours this morning on this major artery after a tanker carrying thousands of gallons of gasoline exploded. It literally burned off a stretch of the pavement, which workers then had to scramble to repair and repave. There were, thankfully, no injuries. President Bush is at his Crawford, Texas ranch for Thanksgiving, and Iraq war protesters joined him there today, though uninvited. A dozen of them were arrested after setting up camp near the ranch in defiance of new bans on camping and parking on those roads. Up next here, this Thanksgiving Eve, NBC News In Depth. Some sharp disagreement tonight over what the Vatican is now saying about gay men in the priesthood. And later, a 9-year-old boy who made a big impression on all of us. We'll let you know how he's doing these days.
And that's when we feed them.
This holiday.
We're back with NBC News In Depth tonight, the newest Vatican decree against gay men in the priesthood and what this could mean for the Catholic Church, already struggling with a shortage of priests. And the numbers tell this story. 40 years ago, there were more than 58,000 Catholic priests in America. Now it's 42,500, a drop-off that has happened as the number of Catholics in this country has grown by some 20 million. NBC's Ann Thompson tonight on the Vatican's latest rules on gays and the church.
In the first major directive of his papacy, Pope Benedict does not affect men who are already priests. Researchers estimate at least 20% of the seminarians and priests in the American church are homosexual, but not necessarily active. A church that teaches homosexual in NBC News, New York.
And when we come back here tonight, our special series here on pensions and why this may be a very good time to refocus on those numbers 401, as in K.
Present to you a financial plan.
New Orleans, NBC Nightly News tomorrow.
A problem on the ground in Chicago tonight. A fiery crash late this afternoon just outside the city. The pictures are just into us. A commuter train apparently hit several cars near a commuter rail station in the suburb of Elmwood Park. We're told that no one was killed, but a railroad spokesperson says there may in fact be multiple injuries. For a few years now, baby boomers have heard and consistently ignored the warnings not to count on your pension or Social Security when you retire. So now millions of Americans are scrambling to find ways to make sure their golden years are indeed golden. We've been calling our series of reports on this growing problem pension tensions. Tonight, NBC's Mark Mullen has our report. For Janice, he goes into the Thanksgiving holiday on an up note. The Dow was up about 44.5 points, now very close to 11,000. That would be a 4-year high. NASDAQ gained almost 6.5 points to reach a 4.5-year high. Even in the most dangerous places on earth, Americans will pause to give thanks tomorrow. And for all those of us here in the States who want to know that our folks in uniform will have full plates, rest assured, we have been assured there will be more than enough good food on the menu for all those serving in Iraq, Kuwait, and Afghanistan. Enough food to feed an army. In fact, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps. When Nightly News continues, we'll check in on a little boy we met during Katrina.
And today, Eurythmics, live on the Plaza. Are you ready to rock? A special Toyota concert the day after Thanksgiving, only on The Today Show.
Grambling and Southern, one of college football's great.
Regular viewers of this network remember when they first saw him, most of all when they first heard him. Charles Evans was the little boy we met at the height of the human depravity that went on the convention center in New Orleans. He had all the maturity that the public officials around him apparently lacked, and he had wisdom beyond his years. Campbell Brown introduced him to us back then, and tonight she checks in on Charles Evans today.
A 9-year-old settling into a new life in Dallas, Texas.
Cool.
We first met him almost 3 months ago. Charles Evans was one of thousands trapped at the New Orleans Convention Center, desperately trying to get out of the city.
We just need some help out here. It is so pitiful. Pitiful. What we gonna do?
He was living here on the street with his great-grandmother Ophelia until they were finally evacuated to Texas, finding temporary shelter with cousins Kevin and Valletta Morrow.
We had a lot of people that saw him on the news, and they were so in love with him, you know.
Can I have a hug?
Donations have made Charles's new life possible. He and Ophelia now live here. A donor has paid the rent for several months. Even Hollywood came calling, inviting him to appear on the Emmy Awards.
This here is my new friend, Charles Evans.
Were you nervous when you went out there?
He was very exciting. What I enjoyed was meeting the stars like Halle Berry.
But it has been tough as well. The trauma of Katrina has taken an emotional toll, and Charles is struggling in school.
He's trying to adapt with what's going on, the changes and everything. Schools is different. Our school district is a little bit, I think, advanced compared to New Orleans.
And the money is running out. Like so many Katrina victims, in a few months, Charles and Ophelia will have to find another place to live. For the moment, though, he is just a little boy.
So other people did stuff for me. I like to tell them, Happy Turkey Day.
And he is happy to have a home for the holidays. Campbell Brown, NBC News, Dallas.
When you climb a tree.
Happy Turkey Day back to you, Charles. That is our broadcast for this Wednesday night, Thanksgiving Eve. Thank you for being with us. I'm Brian Williams. In fact, happy Thanksgiving to all. Please join us here tomorrow night. For now, good night.
Nightly News is a presentation of NBC News. More Americans watch NBC News than any other news organization in the world.